what is it like being a gay in Malaysia?
I think Malaysians in general, we struggle with this idea of what it means to be LGBT and plus, because it's a spectrum. And growing up, trying to figure out where you fit in between straight and gay is itself a struggle. Um, and all our lives, I have personally been told that you have to be straight because of our religious and cultural beliefs generally, but personally because I was growing up in a Christian family. So you have to be straight, right? So if you're a boy, you have to marry a girl. If you're a girl, you have to marry a boy when you achieve a certain age, and that's how life goes. Very patriarchal. So growing up gay, I wouldn't say I was growing up gay. It was a struggle because I didn't know where I would fit in. Whether this was a temporary feeling, whether it was a phase in life, was it something I could forget about? Was it
Mm.
lust? Was it just because it's sexual feelings? Was it something I could forget, basically? So it was a struggle growing up, but I fully formed or perhaps came to terms with the idea that the identity that I am in is a gay identity was when I moved to the UK.
So all your childhood and your teenage life in
Mhm.
Malaysia, were you confused, or did they tell you you had to be straight, and did you know you were gay then?
Yeah, I think I first started to know that I couldn't have attraction towards the opposite sex. I think I was probably in school when I was in primary level.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but to be told that I have to marry this and marry that is all because it's part of religion, isn't it? Because I'm Christian,
Mm.
it's part of because we have youth workshops and Sunday school where they talk about healthy relationships, and it's always between male and female. So I tried to accept that, but then I realized slowly that I couldn't conform, that I was not normal. I kept feeling that there was something wrong with me because I don't share the same sentiments. Yeah.
So you've known you were different
Yeah.
for quite a long time.
Yes.
And what did your family think?
Well, I think the common indicator that I was not normal, as they would say, I don't like to use that word because everyone is normal, but
Yeah.
in that in the society which we live in, to be different, you are known as abnormal, and the indication is that you are not masculine enough because that's your gender expression that is related to your sex. So being male, I need to be macho, and there were many instances where I was not of that stereotype. I was not macho at all. I had a lot of effeminate tendencies. I liked decorating. I loved female clothing. I used to go with my mother shopping. I liked cooking. I liked baking. I took up a lot of things which were deemed feminine for a male to be involved with. So that involvement and that level of effeminacy was not looked at positively. So that was one of the ways which I was sort of called out for being abnormal. The term gay wasn't used to me then.
Okay.
It was just being effeminate or pondan. Or we in Tamil the number nine comes, like they say ombode, number nine has this connotation that you are effeminate. Yeah. So I have been called that since I was in school because I was not like regular boys who would
Primary school or secondary?
primary mostly.
Okay.
Yeah, I already felt that I couldn't be like them, going and playing football, coming back sweaty, and I didn't like it. I preferred to remain as how stereotypically girls would be. I preferred all this classroom work. I
Mm.
was different.
Okay. So how was it like as a child?
I think as a child I was okay with it in the sense that I conformed. I had my chance of playing with Barbie dolls with my god sister. So because she was a girl, so she
Mm.
was given toys which were meant for girls in that
Okay.
sense, and I had male toys. which I didn't like. I hated
Such as
cars, trains, guns. I didn't like it. But I would go to her house so that we could play with dolls, dress them up, shout, bathe them, whatever. And then, masak-masak, all that kind of games. I took a liking to that because it's a female gameplay, isn't it? Like how girls would play, dress up, make up. So I preferred that.
And then at school, how was it at school?
And then at school, I was not active in sports. I hated sports for the reason that I have to change in front of other people. I didn't like the idea of, taking off my t-shirt in front of other boys. I didn't understand what that meant. Only in my secondary years did I realize that I would be actually attracted to the other boys because I went through a single sex school system where it was all boys. It was a mission school. So I realized that it was it was personified in a deeper way in secondary school. I think when puberty hit, that's when I realized I couldn't.
And you mentioned the name calling just now.
So
There was a lot of that?
Yes, I think it progressed because many of them knew me in primary school. And then when we moved on to secondary school, the name followed. And then when I met new friends, I either had them as friends or not.
What was the response of the teachers?
Yes, I think not every
This
teacher.
is bullying.
It's bullying. Well, not every teacher is good with their outside classroom skills, isn't it? They only can teach. That's the general fact. They only can teach in classrooms. But outside classrooms, they basically don't bother. So these name callings happen. I've even been called Pondan in class, in the middle of a teaching lesson.
And the teacher?
The teacher said it.
The teachers?
Teacher said it, yeah. So it's very common for them to say it because they feel there's nothing wrong. That because we are all boys in the classroom, 40 of you sitting in the classroom, and if someone behaves differently, they have a right to call you out because you are being deviant. Yeah.
Now at university, what happened at university?
So when I finished secondary school,
Yeah.
I developed a very close, small circle friendship with boys who either accepted me for who I am,
Yes.
because I never revealed my sexuality, but when I say they accepted me as they accepted my effeminacy and my taste, because I liked arts. I liked fine arts. I like dance. I like drama. I loved watching sitcoms. We would watch the Oscars. We would talk about the best dressed, worst dressed. So I only could develop a very close group of friends who also indulged in such fun. So when I moved to university, I registered in a course which was also going to be very stereotypically associated with girls. I did English. So languages are known to be very feminine. So that itself was another tick off. A lot of friends said, why are you doing such a feminine course? I was also told, why don't you do engineering? Why don't you do medical? Why don't you do law? Even then I was called out for being different.
Okay. Now, and in your family?
In my family, I think personally, I've not come out. Right?
You haven't.
I've not come out, yes. I don't even plan to come out to everyone, but my effeminacy is there. They notice it, but no one talks about it. Whether they know intrinsically that I'm gay, it's up to them. But none of them have approached or confronted me about it. And as long as that doesn't happen, I'm cool and they are happy, I'm happy.
And you don't intend to come out?
I don't intend. I feel there's no need to come out because everyone should be treated equally. Why does my sexuality have to define my identity?
Okay.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you about the coming out, but as you're not going to come out,
No, I've decided that if I was to come out, the only person I will come out to is to my mother, because I think she has the right to hear it from me.
and does she know?
No,
Okay.
she doesn't know yet.
But you will.
I will.
How do you think her reaction will be?
I think one of the ways I have been, you see, coming out is not an event. It's not like an engagement or a marriage or a birthday. Coming out is a lifelong process. I've known of people who have been coming out for 30, 40 years. Because coming out is not an utterance of a statement, I am gay. It's not. It's a process of breaking down this fact into people who have not been able to grasp or accept it. So I may utter that statement to my mother, but I think she will take a few months or years to really understand. But what I've done, because I've been very academically involved with research on queer and literature,
Yeah.
I have always been talking about this with her. I've even asked her opinions on what does she feel on trans rights. Does she believe in LGBT people? Do you think that they should be accorded equal rights in marriage? I've had conversations with her. And she also, because she was a school teacher, she understands. And we have had intelligent academic conversations. So I won't be that surprised if she actually comes out okay with it. I would be very surprised if she rejects me, because she knows that we have reached an intellectual level where we can talk about it. Yeah.
Do you try and hide the fact that you are gay?
Yes.
This is in Malaysia.
In Malaysia, yes. I have done it before I left for London. While I was in Malaysia, I was very active with, Christian organizations. So I was very careful with what I do and what I say and how I behave.
Why is that?
Because then you'll be ostracized.
Even by the church
Yes.
in Malaysia?
In Malaysia, I think they're very homophobic. They are very against new teachings, or perhaps doctrines which are very old. They are not willing to relook at it. They still want to follow dogma. I dare use this word. It's very dogmatic. Churches are very dogmatic because they still want to get attached to European or American-centric church beliefs.
Okay. Now, that was your life in Malaysia.
Yes.
You came over to study
Yeah.
in UK.
Mhm.
Do you find a very great difference in how they treat you?
Yes. In Malaysia, I struggle with two things until today. One is my sexual identity. Number two is my racial identity, or perhaps ethnicity.
Okay.
I don't use the word race anymore. So, being Tamil, again, being very specific. I don't like to use the word Indian because it's a political term. So, the right ethnicity is Tamil for me. That's how I identify. Being Tamil in Malaysia is already a struggle, because the moment you're dark skinned, you are already oppressed by society at large, regardless. Then, because of my religion, I move up the scale. Non-Hindu. So I have an English name, anglicized, I get better in society. And then I did an English course, I move up the ladder again. But because of my sexuality, there is a chance that I will be brought down again. But in the UK, when I got in, I did not have to fit into social molds. They didn't exist. I felt that everyone was almost equal.
So was it liberating?
Very liberating. I didn't have to identify as Tamil. I didn't have to identify as gay or straight. No one asked me why I would flick my wrist. Why would I talk in that way? Why do I enunciate my words in such ways? No one asked me. No one judged me.
What is the most challenging thing for you about being a gay in Malaysia? Is it the fact that you have to live a hidden life, a secluded life, that people do not know you for who or what you really are? Or what is the most challenging thing?
I think the most challenging thing is to have a partner in the open. I think that's one of the most challenging things, because sexual identity, you can come to grasp with it in private, right? We all have private pain. You can cry at home. You can go and see a therapist or a psychologist to deal with this struggle you're having. And I'm sure there are many liberal or progressive counselors in Malaysia who have got credentials to actually talk to LGBT individuals to help them come out and deal with the identity. I don't think we have come to a stage where we have counselors and psychologists who force you to repress. Maybe in the religious context, if you go to a church or to an Islamic leader, probably they would tell you that you can change, as how Jakim has come up with a new video on ways to revert back to the straight path, and that is to marry women. They actually tell men to marry women so that they can change their sexual identity.
At the flick of a switch.
Yes, they believe that you can switch, right? To pray more, to fast, to do your Hajj, and then marry women and produce children, and then you would see your offspring as a reflection of you, and therefore you become straight. That's the interpretation of religious people. Not just Muslims, I think even the Christians will have that view, that you can deny your lust or this temporary feeling you have. But in a more liberal sense, in a circular situation, I think there are very qualified professionals who would actually help students, especially in universities. I've seen a rise in private colleges and universities who actually provide special LGBT counseling sessions to help students come out. This was something which was not in place when I was there, but I'm so glad it's happening now. Because depression is very high. A lot of people, especially LGBT individuals, have very high depression because they cannot deal with it. They don't know who to speak to, and they resort to a lot of things like drugs and suicide.
It's thrown me about the Jakim and the flick of the switch.
Yeah.
And then coming here,
Yeah.
it was, like I said, it must have felt liberating for
Very
you.
liberating. Very accepting, very liberating, because I was not policed. There's no fear that you will be prosecuted. Let's leave persecution aside. Prosecution in Malaysia, you know that they use this word carnal intercourse, and there's only one person who is famously charged with sodomy. It's none other than Anwar Ibrahim. But sodomy law is a colonial draconian law, just like Sedition Act, but it's used very specifically, and the definition of that sexual act is long gone in the UK. They have repealed again today. This year is the 50th year the UK has celebrated against the decriminalization of homosexuality. And Malaysia, being a post-colonial country, we inherit this law. But Sayaton, carnal intercourse against the order of nature, is still prosecution. You can still be prosecuted with that in Malaysia and Singapore. And Singapore is worst because they specify male to male. So in Malaysia, women who enjoy anal sex also can be charged.
Okay.
Because it's not specified which sex is involved, but it is a crime to indulge. So you do not want to be caught.
Have you received threats of any sort when you were in Malaysia because you are gay?
Again, for me, unique because I have no one knew that I was gay, so maybe the threats didn't seem serious. But I've had instances where they said, if you don't stop being feminine, we're not going to be friends with you.
These are from people you know?
Yeah. Or if you don't stop being feminine, I don't think you can come to my house anymore because my parents wouldn't like it. If you don't stop being feminine, maybe we can't be friends because I don't want to be seen in public like that. Or even utterances like, oh my god, that is so gay. And that statement itself has a lot of negative connotations. What do you mean by that is so gay? It's always negative. There's nothing positive about that is so gay. I don't think there's anything positive to that. So I have had those kind of things thrown at me, but I have not so far received any death or
threats to
assaults.
harm.
Yeah, I've not received it yet.
What about, you must have some gay friends back in Malaysia, have they?
Yes.
They have
Yes.
received threats.
Yes. Specifically from the Muslim community. Malay boys or men who have received threats from Malays themselves.
The Malays?
Yes.
And what do the Malay gays do?
I think they have developed a very, very different approach to dealing with this. I think it's worthy to note that many Malaysian, or perhaps Malay, queer identifying individuals are brighter in the sense that they know how to negotiate between being Malay, between being Muslim, and then between being queer. Some people don't like to use this word queer, so I would say LGBT plus individuals. They know how to stratify their life into these three sections. So they develop a very different kind of mindset. And when they get overseas, somehow all three can coalesce, or they let go of one. They either choose to let go of their faith, or they choose to let go of their culture. But their sexual identity remains, because that is the way they have been brought up with, right? They have, come to terms with it since they were young.
Now you're going to return to Malaysia very soon.
Yeah.
What is your message to other gays living in Malaysia who probably are under threat or who fear normal society, thinking that they are weird or
Awesome.
I think that this is 2017 and Malaysia is not moving forward, unfortunately. We're going backwards, at least 20 to 30 years back. And I think that there are a huge number of Malaysians who are coming out in their own way, whether it's to their family, to their friends, or even to themselves. Coming out is very, very personal. Many people define coming out as so many ways. I think the first coming out is to yourself. You need to stop living in denial. And I think that there are quite a big number of Malaysians who have stopped living in denial because of Western media. They have been accessing a lot of blogs and websites where LGBT news or related things, or books, literature, movies, books, short films, blog entries, and anime especially now have a lot of homosexual innuendos. I think they have looked at this and they have been exposed to it for a good
And it gives them
amount of time.
confidence.
Yes, so it helps them become confident. So I really don't have a message besides being true to yourself. I think that we need to develop a very strong block of an LGBT alliance, and we need to protect one another, because we need to make sure that homosexuality in general is decriminalized, and we need laws to protect LGBT individuals from being discriminated or assaulted. I was very saddened today that a trans woman, Indian girl, she was murdered.
the one in Kuantan?
The one in Kuantan.
Yeah.
She was shot and then she was
Slashed.
slashed. And I was very, very disappointed with Malaysian media, especially from the Malay newspapers, on how they described her. Lelaki berwatakan wanita. Man who what is perwatakan, distinguishes himself or behaves as a woman. They use such words. Earlier they used the word pondan, but because our queer activist, trans activist Nisha Ayub wrote to them and asked them to change the word, they have used the word lelaki berwatakan wanita,
Living her life as a
as a
As a
woman.
woman.
But she has every right. If she's a woman now, she is a woman. Why are you still talking about her past? And I realized that there's a lot of immaturity in media. They still like to use words like awang hitam, pondan, and all these, very derogatory terms. I think there's a lot to look at in terms of vocabulary in media. But that being said, I think because we have a very strong hegemonic political party, or a very strong political, not just political, religious bloc in Malaysia, I think this is one huge hindrance to being liberalized. Yeah.
So what is your message to other Malaysians?
Don't live in denial. You need to come out. You need to be
But-
true
but
to
that's
yourself.
just-
The gays.
Yeah.
For the Malaysians who treat gays as weird, abnormal people, what is your message to them?
Every human is equal. You're not better and they are not better. You need to see yourself as equals. And only when you see that, then you realize that race is a construct. Sexuality is a construct. Color is a construct. Class is a construct. When you destabilize and you deconstruct all these things, then you will start to see people as equals. Then you will stop labeling him as gay, lesbian, trans. You will see everyone as same. And only when you achieve that level, then you will achieve the kind of euphoria which we want as Malaysians, the utopia which we all dream of where we have equal rights. Yeah, it has to come from the individual.
Okay, thank you very much, Paul,
You're welcome.
and good luck.